Good morning, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I hope that you guys are having an awesome start to your week. It has definitely been a blessed start to mine. I've had some time to spend time with family. Still recovering from my little medical situation, but I mean, this close to being 100%. Nothing significant or major to report on the negative side as far as that's concerned. Progressing, just not completely there, but definitely in a very good place. I want to remind everybody we're still pushing through the 60-day holistic health and fitness challenge. Go over to the Master Fitness 21 page on Facebook to start participating in it. It's free. Now, if you want to sign up for a program or a course or whatever, obviously that costs, but participating and being a part of the process and sharing your progress is consulting about what you're struggling with or whatever. We're going to have these conversations on the page. We're going to ignite conversations. We're going to talk about what our goals are, what we're looking for. And this is holistic health. This is not just fitness physically. This is emotional health, physical health, spiritual health. We're going to even have some sessions on financial health. And it is Money Monday, right? So you can go over to Master Fitness 21 page on Facebook and click the like button, and you'll automatically start receiving notifications of what's posted. You can come there, have access to it, whatever. If you haven't gotten the last two books 20 and 21, the links are in there. If you want to work with yours truly on a one-on-one basis, the way to get that started is also in the description box of this video. And I am going to leave it at that, and I'm going to get into what I came to talk to you about, because I want to make sure I'm finished, because I have an obligation for 8 and 9 o'clock. Well, not 8, 9, and 10. So I want to make sure I get to my clients, but I want to make sure I share with you. So if you grew up in a house like I grew up, where parents had to fight to rise to any level of meaningful existence in the world of poverty and wealth, there are some things that you encountered. And one of the things that, when I'm talking to people about a wealth mindset, because what I want to do here is I want to debunk the entire myth of poverty and lack. And I want to introduce you into something simplistic but powerful that is a common conversation in the world of wealth. People who are wealthy are not different species. They simply think different. They're on a different stage of the thinking curve as it pertains to wealth, as it pertains to finances, as it pertains to earning, as it pertains to investing, and so many other things. It's simply a different mindset, a different way of thinking. And I'm going to explain that to you. I'm going to share some of my personal experiences, and we're going to move through this. But what I want you to do is I want you to leave with a different idea about your life, where you're at, where you're going, and what's going on, and why some of the things happen. And for those of you who were born into financial fluidity, some level of, never struggling, everything's great, you probably heard things a little differently, maybe not. But I know for a fact most people who had hardworking parents or grandparents have heard what I'm about to share with you. You heard, if you go out and you learn a trade, or you get a degree, depending on what era you come from. If you go out and get a trade or you get a degree, you'll never starve to death, or you'll never be broke. If you go out and you learn a trade or you get a degree, you'll never starve to death, or you'll never be broke. Some form of that, maybe not in those exact words, but some form of that you heard as a child growing up. It was hammered into you, it was instilled into you. It was also made a point of pride. Those who are have some, what they would call oomph about themselves, are going to go out, get up, get a trade, get a degree, and they're going to go out and get a job. And you were going to be judged heavily on the job you got. And you were going to take pride in that job. And when I sit back and I look at that now, it says, learn a trade and you will never starve to death and never be broke. And when I was talking to my mentor who came into my life in my early 20s and taught me business, taught me finance, taught me a different way of thinking, I had, just by the sake of luck, fallen into a level of success, but the mindset wasn't nearly there, and I would have totally blown it in no telling how soon. But this guy sit down and he taught me a bunch of things, and something he taught me made me go back and revisit that statement: learn a trade and you will never starve to death. Learn a trade or get a degree and you'll never starve to death and or go broke. My grandfather was a master welder. My grandmother, well, these are my great grandparents, I just say, was a licensed beautician who owned her own shop. And so they both had trades, and we never starved to death. We never had our lights turned off. We never had moments where there was no food in the house. We never experienced any of those things. It's kind of joked on in the hood that we were the richest of the poor people. We got a new car every couple of years, 3 or 4 years, blah, 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 house paid for and all that. And so that was a joke, but there was a big gap between what was being brought into that house and what some of the people in another part of the community, in another part of the city were bringing in. A huge gap. But when I went back and I reviewed that statement, good morning, Kim. We're going to be on for 9 this morning, if that's okay with you. Get back into the swing of things. I'm healthy enough. Look, when I went back and revisited that, it's learn a trade and get a degree and you'll never starve to death and you will never go broke. And then it hit me. That statement is birthed from desperation, not power, not elevation, not hopes, not visions, not dreams. It's birthed from the desperation of not being broke and not starving to death. In other words, if I were to break that down in the way that I teach my clients now, that's a statement of survival. That will put you in survival mode. And that is what you have to be careful of. So many people are in survival mode. So many people are trained to be in survival mode. Matter of fact, we're conditioned to be in survival mode and to function along a line of complacency and compliance that works against any form of elevation, empowerment, or the development of building of wealth. If you are to go into some cities where a lot of these old industrial era buildings are still at industrial manufacturing plants, look at the plant. Look at the industrial manufacturing plant. And, if you're looking at one that happens to have one of the big smokestacks, move that out of the way, look at the rest of the building. What does it resemble that still exists today? Schools. Those buildings are an exact resemblance to today's schools and the schools of yesteryear. Schools haven't changed much in the way they're designed right now. They're designed, and the newer designs are more on the line of today's replacement of industrialized labor, which is now you're sitting at a desk in a cubicle. So it may look more like a corporate office building, but it's still resembling the workplace. So if you go back to when schools were first introduced for the purpose of preparing people for the workforce, schools were not an obligatory thing. They were not something, but what happened after slavery is there was a movement into the workforce of people who were not trainable. And so corporate America came to The government said, hey, look, these people aren't ready. We need them trained. We need them in school. So they created public school system. The public school system came in, and the schools resembled the plants. And pay attention to how things work. At a plant, you show up at a plant at a certain specific time, the horn blows. When the horn blows, that means it's time to work. Everybody gets in line, punches their time clock, and goes to their specific station, and they work for a specific amount of time until the horn blows again, and they get to take a 15-minute break, and then the horn blows again. They go back to work, and then the horn blows again, and you take a lunch break, then the horn blows again, you go back to work, and you do this until the last final horn blows, and you get to go home. Well, guess what happens in school? You go to school at a certain specific time. The horn is replaced with a bell. The bell rings. You go to your set stations and you sit down. You wait on the teacher or the foreman or the plant manager or whatever to show up and tell you what you're going to be doing today. The entire setup is set up to prepare you to show up, how to respond to authority, how to be compliant and complacent in the presence of authority, how to show up and do what you're told and be rewarded for it based on what you were promised and no more. And you move forward in that. Now, that is what's happening. Now, here's the problem with that in a nutshell. That model was introduced over 100 and something years ago, literally. And it has not changed. But the industrial era is over. We're in a situation now, think about it. Even when you were being taught by your parents, you go out, you do this, you get you a good job, you stay on your job for 30 years, you set you some money aside, you do all these different things that you were told to do, right? And then you go, well, according to Forbes, the average job has a job security guarantee, so to speak, of about 31 days. The idea of being on a job now for 20 and 30 years is unheard of. But there's more to that. Okay, so you are being, basically, school is this place where we send little people to train them how to be big people who show up to places and trust other people with their future while doing what other people want them to do. And this is not about maligning anybody. This is about a way of thinking. Because, see, this is not what's being taught in homes that are affluent. There's a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I love his work. He has produced, my favorite work of his is Blink, but this book is in Outliers. He talks about the difference in thinking. He talks, in one of the analogies he uses is the analogy of what a poor or middle class parent is telling their kid on the way to the dentist or the doctor. And I think they use the dentist specifically in there, but you can transplant doctor as well. What the poor middle class parent is telling their kid is completely different than what the wealthy parent is telling their kid. The poor and middle class parents tell them, okay, we're on the way to the dentist. This dentist is an expert at what he does. He spent at least a minimum of 8 years training and knowing to know everything he can. You don't challenge him. Don't ask no questions. Don't go in there. Even if it hurts, just sit there, grin and bear it. He knows what he's doing. Don't complain. Don't whine. Don't do anything. Just go ahead. Don't embarrass me. You can't possibly know what he knows. He knows what he's doing. So basically, submit to the authority, never question the authority, never seek answers, never look for a better solution, never ask for second opinions, nothing. Just go in and do what you're told. On the other hand, the wealthy parent is telling a kid, look, we're going to the dentist. This dentist has spent 8 years being trained on how to serve you. He spent 8 years on making sure he gives you the best service. So you go in there expecting nothing but the best. You get anything less than the best, you've got to call him on it. In other words, challenge the status quo. Expect to be served. Expect the best and demand the best of others instead of always expecting others to demand the best of you. Here's the problem now with the mindset and why it has never worked. And you got people who will take great pride in this because they were trained in it. And when you're in here's what I can tell you about survival mode. Survival mode or desperation mode is when you go out and your whole goal is to never be broke and to never starve to death. The chances are that are halfway decent that you will never starve to death and truly, truly never go broke. You may not, you have some times where ain't no money in your pocket, but truly, truly, truly going broke is a mindset as well. But the chances are you do that. But guess what? You will guarantee not to do: achieve wealth. Because what I can tell you in my experience, in my observations, in my studies, is that when you're in a state of survival, you cannot achieve wealth because you're not looking for wealth. You're looking to keep your head above water. Two totally different ways of thinking. In order to achieve wealth, you have to be willing to take risks. Period. And you will find that anybody that has achieved wealth or what you may consider to have a high net worth, any high individual of high net worth who has been around for a while will tell you that they filed bankruptcy a couple of times. Why? Because they've taken risks. But and here's the problem though. That was a time, when the plants were in Detroit. That was a time when you didn't have to have an education. You could get a craft, go to a plant and earn a living and take care of your family and put money up, buy a home, and actually work towards wealth. That was years and years ago. That was before the plant started to close down. And then when they started to deindustrialize inner cities, it changed the game. What used to work does not work now. It does not work at all. The first thing you have to understand is I read a book, and I can't think of what that book is, but he used the wheelbarrow analogy. Said having a job is like having a wheelbarrow full of bricks. And you're pushing these bricks around. And for every hour you push the bricks, you get a coin. So if you want 2 coins, you got to push the brick 2 hours. If you want 10 coins, you got to push the barrel full of bricks for 10 hours. Here's the problem. There's only 24 hours in a day. And there is absolutely time needed for sleep, interacting with family and everything else. So you are limited in time. But you have trained yourself to exchange time for coin. And here's the problem. You're going to run out of time. And so you're going to be limited in how many coins you can earn. Now, that's the job. In building wealth, the wealth person thinks, I'm going to take the same wheelbarrow, but I'm going to dump the bricks out and I'm going to fill it with gold. So, okay, that don't make any sense. Gold this is what my mentor told me when I was 20 years old. He said, he who has the gold makes the rules. He who has the gold sets the standard of the value of exchange. The gold isn't gold. The gold is the quality and the value of what you bring to the table and what you can demand for it. What does that mean? Instead of exchanging time for coin, I increase the value. Now I increase the amount of coins I get per the time. So instead of saying I want 3 hours for 3 coins, I'm going to find a value that I can create within myself, within my gifting, within my skill set that allows me to make 3 coins in one hour. So I got the same hour, but I've made more than the person who's pushing the barrel of bricks. Why? Because number one, I've set the standard by creating the value. And that's all it is. It's value creation. In other words, find out what I can do to increase my value in any set moment. So instead of sitting up and saying, I need 10 hours, I need 10 coins this hour. And that can work in many different ways. But it's a mindset that says, I am not going to exchange time for coin because I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to increase my value in the marketplace. And that comes in a lot of different ways. And I'm not here to talk about all those ways because they're endless. You are in and of yourself abundant. You are in and of yourself exceptional, extraordinary, phenomenal. You bring with you to the table when you focus on you. You bring with you to the table an unbelievable amount of value that you can exchange for wealth. But you have to have a mindset that's willing to so go and do that. Here's the huge problem. The old remedy of way we are training our kids now in schools is outdated and it doesn't work. The job market, if you haven't checked the job market now, think about it. Just 20 years ago, there was honor in having been on a job for 10, 15 years, right? Matter of fact, when you applied for a job 20 years ago, they wanted to see some stability on jobs. They want to see that you would get to a job and you had some loyalty. And now we live in a world where not only is that not expected, you've got companies that are known headhunters or recruiters or whatever you want to call them, that are going out recruiting people from other jobs. So if a person's on a job for 2 or 3 years, they've done great. Well, that goes on the flip side. Companies are no longer loyal to employees. Companies are always looking ways. And then when you got a situation like in Texas, we have what we call a right to work state, meaning that an employee does not have to have a reason for letting you go. They can simply let you go. As long as that there's no obvious reason of discrimination, race, religion, and things of that nature, they can just sit up and say they don't want you anymore. And they don't have to have a reason. But most of them will come up with a bunch of reasons why they can let you go and validate it. And then you're gone and you're without a job. The way the market is set up now, what used to be safe is now risky, and what used to be risky is now safe. I'm not going to fire myself. Now, I may have, just like any company has, some lean time where things aren't flowing as normal, but I'm never going to sit up and say, you know what, Rick, we don't need you anymore. So the idea that I'm going to ever be out of work as long as I'm the boss is nil. What happens is when you show up to a job and you think it's safe, you take all your eggs and you put it in one basket. And you say, I'm going to trust this person that I'm reporting to every day with my well-being, although their number one responsibility isn't my well-being. Their number one responsibility is profit. Their number one responsibility is to make sure that whoever's over them is getting what they need from their department. When time comes to cut corners in lean times, which are coming, some people are going to be let go. Some people are going to be screwed over for money they should be earning that they're not. Somebody is always telling you what you're worth because they're doing your evaluation, and you're never going to get what you could. Again, this is not attacking having a job. This is talking about the difference between the poverty mindset and the wealth mindset. It's talking about the difference between survival mode and prosper mode. And it's a different thinking. Now, the beauty of this thing is that the way you think about it, see, most people have issues with wealthy people. Most people who aren't wealthy have issues with wealthy people. They think, negative things about them. They think they're crooked. They think they're evil. They think they step on people to get it. And the truth is, there are some people out there like that, and you see them every day. But there are a lot of people that are wealthy that don't have big profiles that you see, and they're putting in work. And percentage of what they own, they're giving more than people who aren't wealthy. And I'm not talking about in number. I'm talking about in percentage. So based on what I'm worth, I'm giving more percentage of what I'm worth than people who aren't wealthy. So there are good people out there. But when you have a negative mindset about wealth, what are the chances of you ever doing what it takes to become wealthy? What are the chances of you adopting a wealth mindset? Matter of fact, you have a negative mindset about anybody that's wealthy, and you are already, when someone brings up somebody and say, well, they said this, you're already breaking them down and coming up why you shouldn't listen to them and why, and you are entrenched in this old way of thinking that hasn't produced. It hasn't produced. It's kept you in survival mode your entire life. You've done it. And then here's the beautiful thing about it. You say, okay, I need coins. So if I get this 8-hour gig, I can get 8 coins because I'm getting a coin an hour. And then what happens when things pop up and things go, okay, I'm gonna have to go get some more gigs in the evening time to get some more coins. And you find yourself working yourself into a frenzy with still limits to what you can get and still not ever escaping this mindset. Why? Because it was all done out of desperation. Now, there's a way to work for coins at a coin an hour and still be good and comfortable and not desperate, but that calls for you to trim back your way of living, your lifestyle, what you want out of life. You can live a very reserved lifestyle and live off of very little and be very comfortable if you're comfortable with the lifestyle. And that's a form of wealth. If you have, but see, the beauty of doing it with a mindset is that when I create these streams of income, the streams are working when I'm not. When money is when your operations are operating and creating revenue for you on autopilot, in whatever way you do that. And we live in a digital world where everybody should be doing it. Even if you're holding a job, that should be something you're doing on the side that's automated. You should have a website selling something. I mean, it's too many things and people can't help but buy stuff. And you just have to know how to market it. You have to be committed to it. And what you find is this. So some people say, man, you know how hard it is to start a business? You know how many businesses fail? Yeah, I actually do, because this is what I've been doing for God knows how long. I know all of the numbers. And here's the thing about the numbers. You can use the same numbers to talk yourself out of ever trying that you can use to talk yourself into going after your vision, your hopes, your aspirations, all the things you want out of life. Same argument, same numbers are being used by different people for different things based on how you see things. Okay, say 80%, we're just gonna make up a number. 80% of new business endeavors fail. Okay, so what happens when you start out just based off the numbers playing out over time being accurate? Okay, you get 10 new business opportunities back like 20 years ago. One of the things, and before that, I don't do it as much anymore because I have so much on my desk and I need a bigger team. But 20 years ago, not even that long, probably as recent as 2005, I would sit up every morning, wake up 5 o'clock, head to the home office, sit at my desk, pull out legal pad like this, open up a page, number it 1 to 50, and I'll write down 50 ways to make money that I'm not making money already. After I write the 50 down, I would find 5 that were just really popping out at me that day. Now, obviously, some of them were the same ones I wrote down the day before and didn't pick. But I'm gonna have 50 on the page to choose from. I'm gonna choose out of that 55. And out of that 5, I'm gonna sit up and I'm gonna call my cousin, who was my right-hand man. I hate calling him my assistant because he was so much more than that. And he comes over, he didn't live that far. He comes over, he sits down, he says, man, okay, let's do this one. And so we would pick that day, and he would go work on it, do the research on it, find out, and he'll come back and report, and we'll make a decision where we're gonna make a move on it. And so we kick it off and get it running. We build a team to make that happen. Notice I say build a team. I'm not trying to do everything. I'm building teams that are actually good at doing what it is I'm trying to get accomplished better than me at it. And I pay them better than I pay myself. That's a model that I'm kind of just throwing in for you. But here's the thing. Say 10 of these things that we try. So let's say for 10 days, those 10 days, remember 80% of all businesses fail based off of this hypothetical that we put together. 8 out of 10, right? Okay, out of 8 out of 10, 8 fail. Out of 10, 8 fail, but 2 succeed. So those are 2 businesses now that are producing revenue that I didn't have. So come up with 10 more. 8 fail, but 2 succeed. I'm up to 4, come up with 10 more. 8 fail, but 2 succeed. Now I'm up to 6. Guess what starts to happen along the line as you are doing your 80-20 and you're making the 20 work for you? You start to learn what works, what doesn't work. You start to be more efficient. You start to learn more about profitability. You start to learn more about market analysis. You start to learn more about how to move within a market, how to approach your target audience, how to present your product, how to market yourself, how to brand yourself and your product. And all of a sudden, your businesses that go from 80-20 to 60-40. Now, every time you put 10 on the table, 4 are working. And all of a sudden now you've got this groove. And so you get to a point where you're more likely to succeed than you are to fail. But it started because you were willing to step out and go after it. It is a mindset. But what I can tell you is what used to be safe isn't safe, and what used to be risky is no longer risky. It's switched. When you sit up and you report to a job, and I'm gonna tell you where I learned this from. I've got to get off here because shoot, it's 7:50 already. I can't get through the whole thing. I'm gonna tell you where I learned this from. I used to do international relocation. One of the things I did was international relocation. What I did is I expatriated and repatriated high-level executives. I've worked with companies like Enron. This is the one I'm talking about. EDS, Nortel, Flora Daniels. What else? I know I'm missing some. That I worked with Unical. And when Enron had its collapse, I was the person responsible for bringing back their expatriates from all over the world. I got to set up, I did everything from household goods shipments back to the US via sea, via air, repatriation. I let them know what their packages, their severance packages was going to be. That was the big thing. These people are high-level executives. A lot of them not only took their families over, they took their company assistants, whoever was working for them over here, they took them with them. They had housing allowances. They had car allowances. Much of the money they were making overseas as a salary, they were pocketing because they had expenses. But they were coming back home, and they were coming back home without jobs. And I was letting them know what's going on. A lot of the other people, the people who have been pocketing their salary, they were good. But one of the stories that just, I've never gotten over this. White lady, late 50s, maybe 60. Personal assistant to a high-level exec over there, a VP or something. And she was coming back. And just like so many other Enron employees, she had been ingesting and investing her 401k into Enron stock based off of the false reports, to the point that when it collapsed, it wiped her out. She had been with the company, I want to say 30 years. She was close to retiring, so close to 30 years, somewhere up in there. She was close to retiring, and she was expecting a retirement nest egg of about 1 point something million out of what she had invested. And she ended up broke at close to 60, meaning she's not employable anymore. And just like that, what she thought was safe was gone. And now you don't get to put those type of years in with a company. Man, think about how many times people change jobs now, and go out and talk to people about what's out there in the workforce now, and how many jobs you have to have just to make ends meet now. And understand that the last collapse took place 2007, right? 2007, 2008. It's crazy. What you found is that a lot of companies, instead of laying off at the bottom, laid off high salary people. But what happened is that actually started a revolution where those people left the workforce and didn't go look for jobs elsewhere. They took their expertise at what they were good at, and they started their own businesses. So they started a global movement of small owned businesses. And that is what has grown the economy. That is what has kept the economy afloat. It's not been the corporation. Corporations are running and jumping ship and moving over into different domiciles to get away from taxes and everything else and cheap labor. It's the small business owner that's holding things together. And that is something you get into. Some people just sit up and say, you know, I'm never going to be fired again. That feeling of not having control, that somebody else has control of your destiny, that's never going to happen to me again. I may lose a client, you know, I may have a hidden business, but I'll wake up every day and go put work in for myself. And it's a mindset, but it's so much more. And I'm going to hit you guys with a part 2 on this on tomorrow. But the thing is, you have to have in your mind a willingness to go out and do something for yourself. This is not me maligning or ridiculing anybody. You have to do what you believe is best for you, but you have to understand how things are being done. The school systems are setting up our children to simply be compliant and complacent cogs that are plugged into the wheel of corporate America to enhance and enrich those who are already extremely wealthy. If you want to get out of that, you can't go into it thinking that's how you're going to do it. That's why there are certain things that aren't taught in these schools, like finance, like business ownership. Those things aren't taught. Why? And even things like, even now, go back to what mom and dad said about getting a trade. When I came through school, you could get a trade. They had auto mechanic shop, they had wood shop, they had plumbing, they had electrical, all this stuff. Why isn't any of that anymore? Because those are things you can get and not only go out and get a good paying job, you can start your own business. Think about it. You can literally start your own business as a plumber. You can start your own business as an electrician. You can start your own business as a welder. All of the things like that, they pulled out of school. Control your destiny. Look beyond the moment. I gotta get off here. I really hate it, but I'm gonna finish this off on tomorrow. So come tomorrow, being prepared. We're gonna go into it. It's gonna be Mindful Tuesdays, but we're gonna be talking about the wealth mindset. Okay, on that note, I've gotta go. You guys have a great day.